urgently eat these foods and do the exercises I'm going to talk about in this video. Otherwise, your muscles will simply disappear. 10 years ago, when I was working as a trauma surgeon in the trauma department, we constantly received elderly patients, both men and women, with broken arms and legs. And back then, I was surprised. Why are they literally falling apart? Of course, this is related to age. Of course, it's also related to hormones. But now there are so many studies showing that if you have a low percentage of muscle mass, your bones simply dissolve faster and your body just falls apart. Today, I'm going to talk about the latest global scientific findings in this area. I'll tell you what you need to eat and show you exercises that will help strengthen your muscles and bones, and in this way, extend your youth. I'll start by showing MRI scans of a 74-year-old person who leads a sedentary lifestyle. This light color here indicates subcutaneous fat tissue. This is the fat in the thigh. So, this is the thigh. They took a scan of the thigh. Do you see how much fat tissue there is? Now, look at the muscles. The muscles are shown in a darker color. Look at how loose they are. See how many light areas there are in them. This means that there's still a lot of fat inside the muscles. These are weak muscles. Pay attention, there's a bone inside. There's this dark rim, and inside there's a light area. So this bone is more osteoporotic. And now notice how a 70-year-old man looks on the scan, right? They took his thigh and scanned it. All of this is muscle tissue. See, it's uniform. This means the muscles are strong, they're well-defined, and they don't contain fat. And look at the volume here. And look at the volume here. So these muscles are much more powerful and stronger, right? And look at the bone, how thick the bone wall is. So these are solid, healthy bones, unlike these ones here, which are about to crumble any moment. I've analyzed the latest scientific publications on this topic. And let me tell you, there are some truly incredible things right now. In 2021, according to a large-scale study in the UK involving 40,000 people, they assessed the impact of muscle mass on life expectancy, and they came to a shocking conclusion. If body fat increases and muscle mass decreases, this is just as dangerous a factor and predictor of a high risk of mortality as if a person has smoked their whole life or developed cancer. Another interesting meta-analysis was conducted in 2017, where 17 studies were analyzed. And the scientists concluded that people with sarcopenia, with reduced muscle mass, have a mortality risk 4 times higher than people of the same age but with normal muscle mass. So, living to 100 or even 80 years old is unlikely if you have low muscle mass. But what's most interesting is that these same scientists write that the rate of disability is 3 times higher in people with low muscle mass. This matches my own observations from when I worked as a surgeon in the trauma department, where I saw elderly men and women coming in with fractures. This is primarily due to a sedentary lifestyle. It's also related to the loss of muscle mass and osteoporosis. And these numbers clearly show just how much a lack of muscle mass affects life expectancy. And now you probably have a logical question. So what should we do about it? I promised you I would explain how you should eat and how you should train. The first thing I want to say is that almost everyone has a protein deficiency. If you don't believe me, you can go get a blood test and check your total protein concentration. The typical reference values for protein in the blood are from 64 to 83 grams per liter. But basically, these values indicate the survival level of your body. And it's considered that if it's below 63 grams, that's already a pronounced deficiency. But according to many nutritionists and the Institute of Nutrition, anything below 80 grams per liter is already considered a sign of protein deficiency. And if you get your blood tested, you'll see that most likely you have a deficiency. The problem is that people consume too little protein, and it's quite difficult to get the daily recommended amount, because the body needs about 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram. Now calculate your own weight. For example, if I weigh 76 or 77 kilograms, I multiply that by 2. So it turns out I need to eat 150 grams of protein. And the question is, where do you get that much protein? I recommend starting to study the nutritional content of foods, specifically the proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, what's called macronutrients. In other words, you need to understand the value of different foods. Because there are a lot of empty foods out there, with lots of fats and carbohydrates. These empty foods just harm your body and will lead to you having a lot of fat and weak muscles. You need to consume and choose foods that are high in protein and low in carbohydrates. So, what are these foods? I'm not promoting any one specific diet, because scientists have also found that there isn't a single perfect diet, and that vegans, vegetarians, or meat eaters don't necessarily live longer than everyone else. In reality, a wholesome, healthy diet is one where you use more fresh foods rather than processed or prepackaged products. You need to assess how much protein there is per 100 grams in different foods. Here, I'm showing you a list of foods with the highest protein content. So, the foods with the most protein are chicken breast, cottage cheese, fish, legumes, lentils, and buckwheat. Include these foods in your diet. Eggs as well, and also nuts, seeds, and hemp seeds. They have a high concentration of protein. So, make sure to calculate so that you reach the right daily amount. That is 1.5 to 2 grams per kilogram. Depending on your weight, you can put together a daily meal plan with a variety of foods. Just make sure you meet this requirement, because protein is the material that affects not only your muscle mass, but also the quality of your skin, your hair, your nails, and even your joints. If you don't get enough protein, they break down faster. Friends, I also have a little trick that helps me reach my daily protein intake. I drink protein shakes. I have a plant-based protein shake, and I just make one shaker and drink it. That gives me about 30 extra grams of protein. Friends, join my 20-day transformative program to rejuvenate your face, lift saggy tissues. You will also tighten your body and generally feel younger and toned. Join link in the description. And besides nutrition, although nutrition solves about 70% of all problems, you also need to work out to train your muscles. And strength training is important. The thing is, cardio, strength training, and stretching are different types of exercise, and you need to combine them. It's important to do strength exercises, because there are also a number of studies showing that strength training stimulates the bone and periosteum, triggering the process of osteogenesis. In other words, it strengthens your bones. Because if the bone doesn't feel any pressure, if there's no strength load on the bones, they start to dissolve. This mechanism can even happen in young people. For example, astronauts who don't experience gravity. Their bones just start to dissolve if they don't do strength exercises in space. So, what exercises should you do? If you don't have access to a gym, you can start working out right now. And one of the most effective exercises is squats. Squats, because the strongest muscles in our body are in our legs. And when you do squats, it's a significant load on your whole body, on your entire musculoskeletal system. Especially if you do 3 to 5 sets of 10 to 12 reps, and then gradually increase the number of repetitions until you reach muscle fatigue. Because muscles grow when they're challenged. In other words, you need to gradually increase the load. And it's very important that when you contract your muscles, you lower yourself slowly for 3 seconds, hold at the bottom for 1 second, and then rise slowly for 3 seconds. This exact principle is what triggers the process of muscle growth. That's why squats are one of the most powerful exercises, because they work a large group of muscles at once. If squatting suddenly becomes easy for you, you can grab a backpack, put some books in it, and squat with the backpack. It'll make things a lot more interesting. Or you could even take a water jug and squat with that too. Besides squats, lunges are also really good to do. Lunges are also great for training your legs. One important fact is that muscles actually act as a pump for circulating blood. And our cardiovascular system determines both our health and our lifespan. In addition to squats, it's long been noted that especially people who live in the Mediterranean, on small islands where there are even mountains and no elevators, end up climbing a lot of stairs and walking uphill throughout the day. Their leg muscles are constantly being trained, and they have the highest life expectancy. So, friends, walk uphill more often, take the stairs at home more frequently. All of this extends your life. There are also other muscles you need to work on. If you have more time, I recommend you do push-ups regularly. I recommend you do pull-ups. And I recommend you regularly hold a plank. But if you have even more time and opportunity, Please go to the gym, work out with weights, dumbbells, and barbells. That will also be good for you, but do it in moderation. Don't overdo it, so you don't throw out your back or injure your joints. Friends, please like this video and subscribe. That's all from me for now. Be sure to share this video with your loved ones and your parents, because it could save their lives. And I'll see you in the next episode. This was Dr. Ulesh with you.